The comments, Isat Buchanan, do you withdraw them?
Regret which comments?
That's caused this controversy now.
No, the controversy is caused by persons who fail to interpret the English language, who have low aptitude for what the English literature and the literary use of language is for. I'm not withdrawing any comment, and I will not have anybody box me in terms of what I said. The English language is there for everybody, and I invite persons to enter the arena all the way up to the tertiary education so that they can understand context.
Political analyst Dr. Nadine Spence says the remarks reflect a troubling attitude toward women in politics. She argues that the comments are rooted in patriarchal thinking and employ misogynistic language that seeks to undermine the role and legitimacy of women in parliament. Let's have a listen to her comments.
I find his position in this interview and his position in parliament very conflicting. I'm not sure exactly what position he's occupying, and I'm also unsure as to what he meant. There's a way in which I do not want to put words in his mouth. But whether or not I put words in his mouth, there are certain things he said that are problematic, right? So I cannot know what he meant to say beyond the words he used, right? But political language has meaning beyond intention. And when a male parliamentarian describes a conflict involving women in parliament as a girl fight, he's reaching for an old patriarchal vocabulary. So he says people are going to say he's misogynistic. He's using misogynistic language by saying women are emotional, women are quarrelsome, women are unable to manage authority without personalizing conflict. Whether he intended to or not, this phrase he used carries that history.
You heard there, Isat Buchanan, from one of the women's rights advocates in the country. She says your statements are problematic, the framing of them. How do you respond?
I can respond. I appreciate that she did not have the context, and therefore she could not make a comment about whether or not what I meant by what I said. I understand patriarchy, and on the patriarchal spectrum, guess what? Black men and women are formed identical on the same patriarchal scale. So if we're talking about patriarchy, that is the white man's concept. And I'm saying of all the work that black women have done in this country, to be reduced to people watching to say this is a squabble, I'm doubling down to say that we are missing the context of the conversation. And she's exactly right. I was pointing to patriarchy and to say that we must not try to set the women's movement back to a time where people become emotional. Because that is exactly what people are going to say about us.
I'm out of time, Isat Buchanan. Do you think what is happening in Parliament is a girl fight? Is that your view?
I think what is happening in Parliament is most embarrassing, and we should go on to do the country's business.
You haven't answered me, Isat Buchanan. Do you think it's a girl fight?
I said we should go to do the country's business, and it is embarrassing what is taking place in Parliament.
It still hasn't. We gave you 2 bites of the cherry. You haven't addressed it.
I don't bite. I'm not a dog. I do not bite. I'm not a dog. Have a blessed day.
We'll leave it there. Thank you, Isat Buchanan. This is where we have to leave it, though. That's all the time we have for Lead Story today. I'm Tyrone Reed. Thanks for joining us. And up next at the top of the hour, it's CVM at 7.
Madam Speaker, when the people of Jamaica went to the polls in September 2025, they did not just elect a government to build this country up. They also made a clear choice about who should lead this nation. They explicitly rejected Mark Golding as Prime Minister. The populace elected him to fill the constitutional role of opposition leader, expecting him to fulfill the traditional duty to oppose and propose. But he is failing miserably at the very job he was given. Instead of offering better ideas, what we have is a leader who is actively opposing Jamaica. He opposed NARA legislation to help disaster recovery. He opposed our critical crime fighting policies. He opposed the casino and gaming frameworks that bring investments. He opposed our strategic international transit agreements. He even opposed the constitutional path to becoming a republic. He opposes everything that moves us forward. There was a time when Garden House was a place of deep respect and dignity. Back then, sharp wit and real intellect were the tools used to debate big ideas. Today, that proud legacy has been thoroughly dragged down to the ordinary level of the street. This decay is being driven directly by the opposition leader. He condones a culture of chaka chaka politics that values online noise over real substance. Look no further than the behavior of the new member for South St. James, Nikisha Burchell. Her brief tenure has already become a textbook example of institutional disrespect. She has been left completely unchecked to do whatever she wants. This behavior is entirely enabled by a total absence of leadership from Captain Chaos. Instead of giving a young member of parliament the proper guidance she desperately needs, he has simply given her the political rope to hang herself. In doing so, he has completely exposed her as unserious, reckless, and entirely immature for Garden House. But let us call this what it truly is, Madam Speaker. This is not just a simple failure to maintain order. Captain Chaos is behaving like a political pimp. He actively sends out his backbenchers to do his nasty, unprincipled, dirty work on the front lines. Meanwhile, he retreats behind a deafening, cowardly silence, giggling mischievously at the background, in the background, while the standard of this house are smashed to pieces. He uses their political survival and unchecked narcissism as a convenient shield to mask his own vacuum of ideas. He lets them absorb the public backlash while happily harvesting the digital noise they generate to fuel his wider slash and burn digital troll campaigns. The Jamaican people are watching this slick, toxic game. They are realizing that you simply cannot take that man seriously as a leader of Jamaica. This member has treated our premier house of laws like a personal content studio. She routinely pulls out her personal electronic devices to record sittings for cheap internet clout. This behavior reached a shameful climax when she stood right inside this chamber, went live on her phone, and recorded active sitting in a blatant violation of our sacred standing orders. It signals a deep structural poverty of class. It creates a national disgrace that brings the highest court of our laws down to the level of a low-grade internet cafe. Yet, her leader sits there giggling, offering his tacit approval for this performative outrage because his camp is completely bankrupt of real policy solutions. What makes this an absolute national disgrace, Madam Speaker, is that this embarrassing behavior has now gone international. Garden House has gone viral. The Jamaican Parliament is trending for the wrong reason. There's a video making the rounds on social media this week where a non-Jamaican lady openly inviting people to watch the Jamaican Parliament and identify Nikisha Burchell as the star of the clown show our Parliament has become. People outside our borders are tuning in, not to learn from our governance, but to laugh at the digital circus. They are watching a first time member of parliament treat her seat like a reality TV audition, and they are rightly calling it out as complete insecurity and a total lack of substance. This performative pageantry is actively damaging brand Jamaica across the globe, turning our sacred legislative traditions into an international online joke. When she isn't violating the electronic rules of this house, this member is out on public media platforms, actively feeding her own brand by insulting the leader of the parliament. Yet, Captain Chaos intentionally chose not to restrain her. He allowed her vanity to drive the narrative and proudly doubled down without an apology. This proves that he thrives on her unguided ego to create the toxic friction his unprincipled leadership requires. This is the exact same member who previously used her first presentation to deliberately break the rules by trying to misuse our beautiful Jamaican patois in a sectorial debate, openly admitting afterward on national television that it was an intentional disruptive communicative device rather than an accidental breach. When a first time parliamentarian feels completely comfortable treating the language protocol of the state as a personal playground for stunts, it reveals that her leader has deliberately decided to vacate the captain's chair. Captain Chaos does not challenge this toxic coarse behavior because her vanity perfectly executes his strategy of division. By stepping back and letting his members chase headlines through personal attacks and rule violations, he exploits their self absorption to turn the backbenches into a weapon of chaos. But it is a profound and jarring irony, Madam Speaker, that while Captain Chaos remains completely silent, his own Member of Parliament, Isat Buchanan, has openly spoken out about the terrible state of affairs inside Garden House. When one of your own hand-picked members publicly admits that the proceedings of this House have deteriorated to a shameful level, it completely strips away any remaining defense for the opposition. It proves that the crisis of decency in this chamber is so blindingly obvious that even those sitting on the backbenches opposite can no longer deny the truth. When Isaac Buchanan stood up on the floor of this house to address this breakdown, he was not just pointing out a bad trend. He was actively rejecting Mark Golding's complete lack of leadership. By demanding a return to order and decency, he was deliberately separating himself from his own leader. He knows, just as the public knows, that it is the ultimate responsibility of the opposition leader to maintain discipline and order on his side of the aisle. Isaac Buchanan's plea to end political pageantry and emotional exchanges was a direct, devastating critique of Nikisha Burchell's phone recording antics. He explicitly noted that young Jamaicans are watching this chamber and questioning the leadership they see, directly undermining the false transparency defense that Captain Chaos has used to shield his disruptive members. Furthermore, while Captain Chaos and his inner circle have launched aggressive public campaigns attacking the House Speaker, his own MP stood up and explicitly defended the chair's position, the Speaker's chair. This creates a massive fracture right at the top of their camp. And let us address the real motive emphatically, Madam Speaker. Why has Captain Chaos taken his hands completely off the wheel? It is the desperate act of an opposition leader who is running scared, completely terrified of losing his fragile hold on the leadership of his own party. He's fighting for his own political survival inside his organization. He is completely paralyzed by the fear of an internal rebellion if he dares to cross the radical, loud elements in his own backbenches. He knows that his grip on the party depends entirely on keeping the most aggressive and disciplined voices in his circle happy. But the fear runs even deeper, Madam Speaker, because Captain Chaos is looking ahead at the next local government elections due next year, and he is absolutely terrified of the impending political fallout. He knows the political math of this country. He knows that if he steers his party into another crushing defeat next year, he will have no choice but to resign. He faces the ultimate historic humiliation of being forced out after losing both a general election and a local government election cycle. This impending electoral doom has sent his camp into total panic, forcing him to tolerate any level of bad behavior, rule breaking, and classless theater from his backbenchers just to stave off an immediate leadership challenge from within his fractured organization. The government elected by the people cannot deal in bankrupt theories or digital slop. It must deal in real, tangible progress that uplifts the everyday lives of every single Jamaican. This is seen through the concrete reality of the Maypen to Mandeville Highway extension. It is clear on the Mandela Highway expansion and the massive Montego Bay Perimeter Road project. It is seen as the replacing of collapsed structures with modern engineering like the Troy Bridge. Through the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, the government has accelerated the delivery of 55 climate resilient bridges to be constructed island-wide under the Accelerated Bridge Program. This aggressive modernization ensures our economic foundation remains rock solid, safeguarding the crucial $3 billion US diaspora remittance lifeline that keeps our economy thriving. Our strategic governance is bringing global acclaim, as seen in the latest Global Peace Index, where Jamaica was officially ranked as the #1 most peaceful country in the entire Caribbean. Jamaica. Concrete outlasts noise every single time, Madam Speaker. I thank you, Madam Speaker. And I thank you all for liking, sharing, and engaging my videos, as well as following me to Garden House. Walk good, Jamaica.